channel, Teaching and Learning. In this channel, we mainly talk about business communication, IELTS practice, English language, and sometimes we talk about various aspects and elements of the English grammar and so on. This video today I'm going to talk about the basic concept of communicative grammar. Look at from this book, Communicative Grammar of English, written by Geoffrey Leech and Jan Svartvic. Okay, so here in this book is very helpful for those learners who really want to enhance their knowledge in English grammar. And this communicative grammar, we didn't have when I was in school level at that time. We didn't have this communicative grammar. We used to learn the traditional grammar. And whenever people say grammar at that time, what we understand, what kind of pictures comes in our mind whenever we talk about, grammar. At that time, people simply understand the patterns, the rules, structures of English language, but it is not the case. Grammar is also the very important and essential part of your communicative competence, communicative abilities, so that this grammar helps you, mainly it focuses to the use aspect of language. Sometimes what happens whenever I was in school, school life, or let's say when I was in school level, at that time the teacher used to teach us that what is the correct form of language and what is the incorrect form of language. For example, I am a student is a correct form, but he am a student is the incorrect form. Or let's say I is happy, I can't say that way, and they am happy. So this way also we can't use. I just mentioned the examples. We used to learn that way whenever we were learning verb and kind of things. Even today that's the thing, it's same. But where do we focus nowadays? Means even in grammar, sometimes we need to focus on the the use aspect more rather than the structure aspect. Structure is also very important, but the teacher and students should understand the use, and they should develop the kind of confidence way to use which form of language. Okay, let me give you some examples. Okay, I am feeling very hot now in this room. Okay, since I am recording the video, so I cannot put on the fan and kind of thing. But and there is someone who is sitting beside me, and I just want to make open the window. So at that time, what will I say? Is there only one correct form of language? Obviously no. There are more than 6 or 7 forms that we can use to request to make somebody to open the window. For example, would you please open the window, number 1. Would you mind opening the window, 2 structure. Could you open the window, 3. Could you please open the window, 4. Will you open the window, 5. Can you open the window, 6. Do you open the window, 7. And open the window please, 8. Window please, 9. Window, 10. And I just can point out towards the window to make it open without pronouncing any particular word. So that way, isn't it that very interesting and important to know? So whenever we learn grammar at that time, why don't we also deal the situation? We also learn about the context where this form is suitable. That is very important to develop the communicative competence. Otherwise, even after learning so many months and years English grammar, people feel very difficult. They feel uncomfortable to speak English, to use English like natural setting. So this book This is a beautiful book. This book will help you to develop your communicative competence. So let's start from the first part of this book. Okay, let me start. So here are altogether, how many books are here altogether? We have part 1. Look at the contents. There is first part 1, and the second one is part 2. Part 1, a guide to use of this book, how we can use this book, how we can study this one, and what are the ways that we need to focus whenever we are using English language or learning English language at that time. So part 2 is grammar in use, how we can use grammar in use. Then under there is part 3 also. So here is A to Z English grammars. This way the whole book, the entire book is divided into 3 parts. So today in this video I am trying my best to complete the part 1, which is a little bit difficult because it will be a little bit lengthy video, but if you manage the time, if you don't have time right now, you can stop it and you can manage your time at least 1.5 hours or something like that. I am planning to complete it in 1.5 hours. Let's hope to complete it 1 hour, or it may go up to 2 hours also, but not more than that. So in between 1 to 2 hours. Okay, so let's start part 1. So what we are going to study in part 1 is introduction, the way this book is organized, varieties of English, grammar in spoken and written English, intonation, a note on phonetic symbols, geographical and national varieties, level of usage, formal and informal English. So this is very important, not only how to use this book, look at. So what we are trying to do is we are going to study the varieties of English, which is very important. And many of my students and sometimes colleagues often ask me that which variety should I use. There are different types of varieties: British English, American English, Australian English, and these are the native speakers. And sometimes we need to follow the non-native speakers variety also. There might be some importance about it. For example, Indian varieties, there is Indian English and Singaporean English, and Chinese English, and African English, and even Nepali English. So this way we have many varieties. Even in a very small language there are various types of varieties. In Hindi, in Nepali, there are varieties. But in case of English, obviously it is spoken all over the world, so obviously there is no doubt, and it is very natural to have the varieties of English language. So let's move towards this one, to the part 1, and what we learn over here in part 1 is introduction. Let me read out the very introductory paragraph. It is very useful. Please listen it carefully. It is sometimes argued that grammar is not important in a communicative approach to language. However, we take the view that communicative competence rests on a set of composite skills, one of which is grammatical. Many people are making a kind of debate in the market, in academic institutions, and in language institutes also. Hey, don't practice grammar by memorizing the grammatical structures, rules, or by learning grammar we cannot develop our listening and speaking skills. If you really want to use English, develop listening and speaking skills. Forget about grammar. Once you start communicate, then you can learn language. No, this is not. So whenever we focus to the communicative aspect of language, at that time there are many composite elements. There are many composition inside it, communicative aspects of language. So one of them is grammar. But here in this course, in this video, what we are going to learn is grammar in communicative way. Communicative grammar. So communicative grammar is more than the structural or traditional type of grammar. If you learn the traditional type of grammar, you may not have developed the high level of confidence whenever you speak. But if you focus to the communicative grammar, we are sure that you can handle the situation properly. So here what it says in the very beginning is grammar is also the part of communication, is also the aspect of communicative use of language. So a new angle, number 2, the type of students we have had in mind when writing this book is fairly advanced. For example, a first year students at a university or college of education, often such students already have grounding in the grammar of the language after several years of school English, and their proficiency is actually using the language may be disappointing. This we believe may be part due to grammar fatigue. So look at why the two writers developed this book. The main purpose behind developing this book or preparing or drafting this book or publishing it is to support to the college level students, mainly the university level students who are doing their first year. Thinking in mind that after learning so many years the school grammar, the students are tired of learning grammars because it has been already learned many years, but their communicative abilities is very low. They have spent their time, efforts and researches to learn English grammar. Whatever they learn, to what extent did they learn is one aspect. The important aspect is did they have communicative abilities? Can they easily communicate? Do they have the kind of confidence whenever they speak? No, their level of using English is very low. So this book is designed to support those students who have already learned the structure, already learned the basic patterns of English grammar, or basic or fundamental knowledge and skills of English grammar. And this book mainly focuses to where to use which structure. That's very important concept. And you people, if you are in intermediate levels or somewhere in between of advanced and basic levels, this book will help you. And more importantly, this book is equally also helps you to if you are the very advanced learner also. So that way we can understand. The students may be therefore benefit from looking at grammar from another angles where grammatical structures are systematically related to meanings, uses and situation, as we attempt to do in part 2, grammar in use. So in part 2, this part 1 is the introductory or mainly based on the concept. Part 2, grammar in use. So we check the particular structure, where do we use that structure, when, in which context, with whom, whenever we are communicating, and what is when we can use it as a response. So that way we check each things over here. So this is the new angle of learning English grammar. And number 3, a better organizations. So in the beginning, what we used to do is, for example, in such grammar, notions of time may be dealt with in the many as 4 different places, under the tense of verb, under time adverbs, under prepositional phrases denoting time, and under temporal conjunction and clauses. The students who is primarily interested in making use of language rather than the learning about structures is not likely to find such an arrangement particularly helpful. Or communicative grammar of English, the central part deals with the grammar in use, which makes it possible to bring similar notions such as those involving time together in one place. So in the beginning, whenever we used to learn about the time notions, so at that time we focus our students towards the verb aspects, past form of the verb, present form of the verb, and future indicators, future particles, for example, shall, will, kind of things. And more importantly, we also deal with some of the time adverbials, some of the prepositional phrases, and time related clauses, and so on. But it became a kind of learning about language, or it became like the structure, learning of the structure of English grammar. What we focus over here in this subject is we focus to the use aspect, keeping it in center. So whenever what to use in a particular type of context or situation, that we are checking over here. Okay, so this way we do. And now number 4 is spoken English. Grammar never highlighted to the spoken form of English in the past. Students, they were encouraged to read and write, and they used to learn GT method, grammar and translation method, which is very popular in ELT. If you are the students of English language teaching methods, and if you are doing your bachelor's and master's in the university, you know that GT method, grammar translation method, which was the first method of teaching second language. But nowadays it is already replaced by communicative approach, communicative methods. So this time, in present condition, we have the even communicative grammar. So spoken English. Okay, let me read few lines over here. An important element of the communicative approach is the student's ability to use and understand the spoken language. This emphasis on speech is sometimes misunderstood, so that the communicative methods is taken to imply focus on the spoken language. We do not share this view. Communication means communication in both speech and writing. Yet, since traditional grammar tends to concentrate on written language, we think it is important for a communicative grammar to describe and exemplify both types of use. In the past, the grammar used to focus towards the written skills only. Since the teachers and students and the grammarian also had a kind of thinking, whenever we speak at that time, we can correct it, and people do not care that much, and speaking is not the part of grammar. But now this communicative grammar focuses to spoken English also is equal to this written English. This is the focus area. So what to speak in which condition is the main concern of this this one, communicative grammars. So that's the thing. And number 5 is corpus data. What does it mean, corpus data? How do we design the grammar? Here we need to know that how the books of grammar are designed, how the concept, rules and regulation are formulated. Is there anyone who is the expert in language, and so that he can write all the rules and patterns and structures of the language, and he mentioned this is correct, this is incorrect, you need to speak this, you can't speak this way. So that is the prescriptive grammar. Here what we are talking about is descriptive grammar. Grammar should be based on its use. So when they formulate a book of patterns, rules, regulation, usage, at that time the grammarian, they go to the society where the language is spoken, and they collect the data from their use, and on the basis of their use they make the rules. That is called descriptive grammar. And once the grammarian and the researcher, they go to the field in the society where the language is used, when they collect the data, that data is called corpus data. Let me read a little bit from here what it says over here. The examples given in grammar have often been made up by grammarian rather than take from real language in actual use. A made-up example may well serve to illustrate a particular grammatical point, but it can appear still the within distancing and learning of grammar from real life use. This is no doubt one reason why grammar is often considered to be a less important part of language in the communicative approach. We take the view that the grammars of a language is indeed of central concern to students, since it describes what makes language tick, how it can carry the meaning we want to communicate. In this revised edition of our grammars, we have illustrated grammatical statements with the help of hundreds of authentic examples from English language corpora. Corpora or corpus is a kind of, collecting the information, raw materials from the society. Whenever people are communicating themselves in a real base, so at that time, in real situation, how they communicate, what they say, how they react, on the basis of which we try our best to make a norm. And on the basis of that norm, we formulate the grammar. That is called descriptive grammarian. That is the job of descriptive grammarian. And this is called descriptive grammar. And communicative grammar is based on the descriptive grammar. If something is based on the descriptive grammar, then it is based on the corpus data. Corpus data means collecting information from the real use. Okay, so that way we are trying to do this one. And now let's move to the, in the first part, there is a guide to the use of this book, section from 1 to 56. There is a guide how we can use this book, and one of the major things you will need is a guide to different levels. We use for different kinds of varieties of English, where English gives us a choice of grammatical forms or structure for a given purpose. The different structures available are often not equivalent since they belong to different styles and varieties. So here one important part that we are going to study in this part one of this book. Whenever we talk about the communicative grammar, at that time we should be very careful about the varieties, because in traditional grammars and in structural grammar, what we learn is this is the correct form, you need to use this, and this is the incorrect form, you use this. But in communicative grammar, there is also the space to varieties of English. If you are a teacher, if you are a learner, and if you help your learners, or if you help yourself to learn grammatical rules, communicatively, obviously you should know the varieties of English. Which one is more important? Which one is correct? So we avoid this questions in communicative grammars. Any kind of sentences can be correct, but they require the context. So language should be used in context. It is not used in the vacuum or inside the four walls of room. It is the social entity. It is the property of our society and community. Society and community means the user of it, native speakers. So English is the property of the native speakers. So and non-native speakers also nowadays, don't worry if I say native speakers. So English is not only the property of British, American or Australian people, or Canadian or New Zealand or South African. It is also the property of Indian, Chinese, Japanese, Russian, and South American, and so on. So whenever we focus English from English grammar from communicative perspectives, varieties plays vital role. Here is one examples from my local language. Okay, local language, and there is one phrase, Dilo ayo, koda ayo. It's from the local language. So something came late, but it came in a very beautiful or very hard way. So the same phrase is pronounced by the different people, different group of people on the basis of their social varieties, on the basis of their geographical varieties, on the basis of the dialects or registers. Also they use it in a different way. In formal situation they will use another terminology. In informal situation they use different terminology. People from the southern part of my country, they use different terminology, northern part different, eastern and western. So that happens even in English. The words, the sentences, even the grammar which are used in the different in one corner of the world, obviously will have some sort of differences in the another corner of the world. So that is the variety. And communicative grammar respects all the varieties of English if they are used in the community. Indian English is also good. People may not need to follow the British English or American English. Indian people can enjoy their own English, and people of Singapore can use their own English. And people of China, they can use their own English, Chinese. Chinese English, Indian English, Hindi plus English, English, Singaporean English, Singlish. So those things are available in the world. So that way we check the varieties also, and study the variety of English is very important. Not only from the geographical perspective, not only from the dialect, but from the sociolect also, on the basis of the particular group of people. White English and black English is different, even though they live in the same geographical location. Both of them, the black user of black English, and user of white English, they both live in the same geography, but they are using English in a different way because they have the different social identity and social group. And there are situation also. Formal situation, we use different English in comparison to the informal situation, and so many other things are there. On the basis of register also, the English which is used in sports commentary, obviously different with the English which is used in the court by the lawyer, and the English which is used in religious activities, or let's say cultural rituals or practices, obviously will different with the use which is used in science and technology. So this way we have the varieties of language. So all the varieties are equally important, and they are need based, they are purpose based. So you cannot say that this word is incorrect and this is correct, this structure is more important than this structure, it is required to use this structure than this. No, the situation or context determines which English you are going to use. So there is no incorrect or correct English. If you are meeting with the British people, obviously it is better to use British English rather than American. And if you are communicating with Indian people, neither British nor American, it is better to use Indian English if you can. Otherwise, you need to understand it. If you can't speak Indian English, it's okay, but you need to understand how the Indian people speak English. That's very important. So those all beautiful things are discussed in this book. So that way we are trying to do it. Now let's move to the varieties of English. So whenever we talk about the varieties of English, it means different types of Englishes. There is one English language. On the basis of various criteria and parameters, it can be categorized into various types. Let me read out one paragraph over here. This is very interesting. Please listen it without being irritated. Okay. So I am going to read varieties of English. To use a language properly, we of course have to know the grammatical forms and structures and their meanings. There are the subjects of parts 2 and 3, but we also have to know what forms of language are appropriate for a given situation, and for this purpose you will find in both those parts variety levels such as spoken and written. So mainly we have two varieties of language. One is spoken language. There are the grammars, structures, and pronunciation things, related things are completely different with the reading one. Let's say writing and spoken, they are different varieties. And we have American and British varieties also, and formal and informal varieties also, polite and familiar varieties also. So these all are the varieties and differentiates different types of English. These levels are a reminder that the English language is in a sense not a single language but many languages, each belonging to a Leech. Use in formal writing communication is in some ways different from the English used in informal conversation. The English used in the United States is somehow are somewhat different from the English used in Great Britain, in Australia, and so on. Obviously, in a general book of this kind, we must ignore many less important differences. The purpose of this section of part 1 is to explain briefly what is meant by the variety levels that you will meet, and to illustrate the varieties they refer to. If you wish to follow up a particular variety in details, you may do so by means of entries for varieties levels in the index. So, as a learner, as a user of English, what we are trying to do is, there might be many varieties, maybe 100 varieties of English on the basis of different criteria. But what we focus is, we mainly focus the major varieties. And minor we don't check because they don't have that much value and they are not going to make the big difference whenever we use English language. So mainly the American and British varieties, sometimes Australian also we check. Mainly we focus to the British and American English. We focus to the spoken and written English. We focus to the familiar and polite English. This way we can check some of the things, and it is better to know a little bit about black English and white English also. That is also important. So before we move to the particular type of variety or the list of varieties, it is better to know the common core. So common core means there is formal English here, and here is informal English, and in between we have the common core. Do you know common core means? There are two sides of the coin, and in the center there is common core. Most of the time it is better to use common core if you want to not to be biased, or if you are not influenced by any particular type of varieties. Okay. So let me read a little bit about the common core. Common core means it can be used for spoken English and written English. It can be used in formal English and informal English. It can be used in polite English and the communicative or informal English. So that's the thing. Let me read out some sentences from here. Luckily for the learners, many of the features of English are found in all or nearly all varieties. We say that general features of this kind belongs to the common core of the language. Take for instance the three words children, offspring, and kids. So children, offspring, and kids. So kids and children, offspring is very formal, kids is very informal, and children is the neutral or common core. So the term offspring is liable to occur in rather formal situation. Kids is likely to occur in the informal situation or familiar situation. It is safest when in doubt to use the common core term. Thus children is word you would want to use most often. So rather than using offspring and kids, it is, if you don't know this which term to use in which situation, so it is better to use the common core. Common core means children. Kids is more informal and offspring is more formal. So kids can be the common core. That way we can check those things. And in case of sentence level also we can do that one. So here are some examples. Feeling tired, she went to bed early. One sentence. Yes, she felt tired, she went to bed early. Second sentence. And the third one is she felt tired, so she went to bed early. So first one is more formal, third one is more informal or very less formal, second one is neutral. So you can use the neutral structures, neutral words, let's say the common core of using English. So now let's move to the grammar in spoken and written English. Grammar in spoken and written English. So it is better to drink a lot so that it helps us if we have to speak more. Anyway, sorry for that. Grammar in spoken and written English. different transmission system. Okay, so we have different transmission systems in spoken and written form of English. So in spoken form, what we use is the sound of language, and we use the pronunciations. And in written, we use the letter, and we use the written script of the words and so on. So how can we differentiate the spoken and written form of language? Traditionally, it is said that writing is more permanent. Writing variety of English is more permanent, whereas spoken variety of English is temporary. It's less permanent. So it is always important to use formal English, well structured English in writing variety rather than spoken. In spoken, you can use whatever you like, the broken sentence phrase, and little bit let's say informal, also sometimes half sentences, sometimes not completed sentences, colloquialisms, and everyday use of language. Those are more preferred in spoken form of language. So that's the variety. And one more thing is, in spoken variety of language, we have the stress and intonation, and we have the pause. For example, my name is Tim. After that, there is a pause, there is a gap. I'm an English teacher. I teach at the university. So this way, whenever I speak at that time, in between of each sentences, in between of two sentences, there is a gap, and that is the property, that is the feature of spoken language. It makes spoken language different with the written language. In case of written form of language, written variety, what we have? Punctuation mark. So we have punctuation mark, for example, marks, for example, full stop, question mark, comma, inverted comma, exclamatory marks. Oh, what's up? You can say, what a beautiful house. Oh no, it's bad. So this way you can express. So by making your voice, the stress and tone up and down, we can express express the different meanings in the sentence, so that they are very important in spoken variety of language, but they are not available in written. One thing. And there are gap filler in spoken variety of language. For example, I'm feeling very happy, but it is not a good idea to stay like this. Look at here the sentence. I am feeling very happy. Sometimes the girlfriend in the eastern part of the world, let's say in the Asian countries or South Asian countries, what they say, I am feeling very well, very happy, but it's not good to stay this way a long time. If whenever they are in the affair and they are living their life, they are living together at that time. Even though this is very luxurious and pleasure for them, but they cannot live this way for a long time. So this is whenever we say, yes, I know, I mean. So these are the gap fillers. For example, there is very beautiful example of gap filler. Let me tell you. Introduce about yourself. When you are in interview and the interviewer first of all says to you, hello, please welcome and take a seat, please. Well, Mr. Casey, introduce about yourself. So this is the questions, and in answer of these questions, the interviewee, the person who is there for the job or something like that, then he says, well, my name is, well, I live, well, I have completed. So this well word, well is also the gap filler. And whenever we write something in written variety of English, we don't use that well. You see, well, you see, I mean, These all words, are the gap filler. So whenever we communicate at that time, we need to engage. The purpose behind gap filler is we need to engage our audience over there. For that, we need to do that one. So gap filler is one of the very important variety of spoken language. Many students who are doing their bachelor, degree in the universities, if this is a course book for them, then in their examination, they are most of the time they are asked that what are the major varieties of spoken language, spoken English. So you can say that stress and intonation. Number 2, gap filler, and sometimes we say the, silent pause also. What we say? Okay. What we do is we don't speak anything, but there is a big pause. If somebody asks you for the for any information, or sometimes people request you something to do, they borrow some money or something like that. Can you help me? Look at my ATM is not working. My ATM card is not working. Can you help me? So it means I do think because I have to give him the money. Well, sure, why not? So I take a little bit pause in between. That is silent pause. That is also the feature of spoken English. It is not there is no place for silent pause in writing. Okay. And another important thing is feature of spoken English is repetition. Sometimes people say that I like to say you to discuss with your parents about this issue. So whenever we are communicating in natural setting at that time, repetition is very common. And there was one leader, in Nepal. His name is, one leader who is already passed away. म के भन्छु भने kind of things, So repetition is a very common, feature of spoken English. Whenever you speak English, either you are using it for the second language or even the first language at that time also, repetition is there in spoken English. But in written English, there is no place. You are not going to make any repetition, and if you make, it will be a kind of mistake. And similarly, like false start is also another feature of spoken English. What is false start? You wanted to say something, but you mistakenly said something, so that you are correcting. False start. Let me read out over here. The speaker may fail to complete a sentence or lose track of the sentence and mix up one grammatical structure with another. I mean, that what getting up Sundays like anyway, and I was behind in any case. So that way, sometimes we wanted to say something, but we mistakenly said something, and we are trying to connect it with another concept. So that is false start, which is also very popular, and it is very natural. I'm not encouraging you to make the repetition, to make the gap fillers, silent pause, false start, those kind of things. What I am trying to say is these are the common features of spoken English. Discourse marker, last time we talked about like you see, I mean, kind of, sort of, like, well, now. These are also discourse filler, or whenever we speak the language fillers. Okay, and this way we can differentiate written language with the spoken language of English. So let's move to the number 20 here, interactive and non-interactive use of English. So what type of English we are using over here? One is interactive. Interactive means we don't know when to speak whom. For example, the speaker and listener, they change their role time and again. I'm speaking and you are responding me. First, now I am a speaker, you are listener, After I speak 3 or 4 sentences, you start to speak, then I become listener. And this is more give and take process, interactive. Both, the speaker and listener, they speak and they become, they change their, roles. So that way. And English can, so the varieties are listed like this way. And interactive, whenever we communicate with our friends and in informal situation, we becomes more interactive, and more the situation is formal, and if there are many audiences at that time, we become less interactive. So person to person communication, face to face communication, one to one communication, that is more interactive. One to many becomes more less interactive, because something like that, the lectures, the news in the channels and so on. So look at, here is one table. I need to show you this table if you can see it properly. Well, so here it is written English is first of all categorized into 2 varieties, that is spoken and written. Under spoken, private conversation and public speaking. Under private conversation also there is face to face and telephone. Under public speaking is lecturers and news broadcasts. So under written variety, small audience, large audience. For small audience, what we use is letter and memos. And for the large audience, what we do is we write novels and newspapers. So this way we understand the interactive and non-interactive use of English. Now cooperation in conversations. So how cooperate we are? Are we changing the tone, or do we cooperate to our audience or not? That is also another very important things. So let me read out over here a little bit. In a conversation, the speaker can check if the listener has understood by asking, do you see what I mean? So this is more cooperative type of conversation. Sometimes what we do is we deliver the lectures, we mention, we express whatever we want to say to our audience. That is less cooperative in conversation. So whenever we communicate with the group of the people, one or many people, at that time, if we say, did you understand what I just said? And if you take a response, then that is more cooperative type of use of English. So that way we need to understand. And there is another tone taking also whenever we communicate. Now I am communicating, so after I communicate for a short time, then if you mention those things, then you are tone taking and so on. And the more than that, let's go to the some grammatical features of spoken English. So what are the because we are learning English grammar over here. The grammar is communicative grammar. So this some grammatical features of spoken English. Let's see some of the features. Okay, tag questions. Tag question is mainly used for the spoken form of language, because whenever we communicate, at that time we want to be confirmed. We need confirmation. For example, if I say somebody to, you are a doctor, aren't you? Here the part of the sentence aren't you is tag question, because it is a kind of tag to the first part of the sentence. Here I want to be sure that whether the person is doctor or not. So let me read out. A highly typical features of speech is tag questions. It means in spoken English, tag question is very popular, and this is most of the time it is used. For example, positive plus negative, and the rule is negative plus positive. Look at the example. We have met before, haven't we? We have met before, haven't we? Or negative plus positive, we haven't met before, have we? So whenever we meet somebody at that time, we have met before, haven't we? Is one type of expression. Another is we haven't met before, have we? So first is with positive, negative tag with positive statement we use negative tag, and in the second with negative statement we use positive tag. So that is the basic patterns of tag questions. And here what we are trying to do is we are trying to learn that tag question is the very common feature of spoken English. It is not used in written English. And another important is ellipses. Ellipses means in some cases part of a sentence can be omitted. For example, hope you are well. Look at the sentence, hope you are well. Here the original version of the sentence is I hope you are well. So here I is deleted. Ellipses means short form of the sentence or structure is more favored in spoken English, but in written we need to use the complete form. So look at another example. Want to drink? Wanna drink? So whenever we are communicating each other at that time, we often ask to our guest or friend, wanna drink? Wanna drink? Rather than do you want a drink? Do you want a drink is the complete structure, but whenever we communicate we use the ellipses. A part or some part of that structure is omitted. Shortcut, the brief structure. So better be careful. You would better be careful. Rather than to say you would better be careful, better be careful. Sounds fine to me. So you can say that sounds fine to me rather than that sounds fine to me. So this is the feature of spoken English. Mainly for the request and command we use spoken. For example, we say sit down. We don't say that you please sit down on the chair. That is the written form of language. You sit down on the chair. Rather than that, what we say, sit down please, come in. We don't say that you please come into the room. We don't say that way. So in spoken variety of English, tag questions are used, understand this way. And number second is ellipses or brief forms, brief structures are used. And another is coordination and subordination. Coordinating conjunction are mainly used in spoken form. For example, we often use and whenever we speak. Yesterday I was tired, but I would go and buy some things and could come and call her so that we could meet in the evening. So that way we often use and then, but if. So those conjunction of English language are excessively used whenever we communicate in spoken form. It is not wrong. It is the feature. It is the characteristics of spoken variety of English. That's the things we need to understand. And sometimes, horses love carrots and horses love apples too. So that way, people use the conjunction. And these are the things. And another is, in spoken, we use mainly the signpost. The words which actually works as the signpost. Whenever we travel, we drive a car or we ride a motorbike on the highway. At that time, there are the some signs, some symbols that helps you to guide about your driving, about your travel on the road. So sometimes ahead there is a hospital. There is a sign of the hospital, school area. Sign of the schools, and there are stones and frog, so that you can understand that there is a restaurant nearby. And sometimes the rolling stones are coming down, so this means diversion ahead. So all these things work as the signpost. So here in spoken English also signpost words are very much used. It's not like the traffic sign. Okay, they are different, but they also give you a kind of clue what you are going to listen. For example, firstly, if somebody starts something from firstly, it means, this is the, very important, then something others are coming over there. Firstly, secondly, finally, hence, to conclude, to summarize, these are the signpost words. And they help us to make a kind of idea inside us about what the speaker is going to say. And they are more used in, spoken English. And linking words that link the, ideas from one to another. Sometimes, contraction and, addition, and trying to find out the similarities and differences. At that time, we often use linking words also. And another very important feature of spoken English is we simply use contracted form in spoken English. For example, I don't go anywhere right now. I am very busy, by the way. So here, I don't say that I do not go out anywhere right now because I am very busy. So contracted form are used in spoken English. Do not becomes don't. Cannot becomes can't. Will not becomes won't. Are not becomes aren't. Am not becomes amn't. So had not becomes hadn't. So this way we use the contracted form mainly in spoken English. He's a doctor. So I don't say that he is a doctor. I often say he is becomes his in contracted form. I do not. I don't say I do not, but I simply say I don't. And you cannot go right now. You cannot. You cannot go right now. Rather than that, you say you can't go right now. So contracted form of contracted forms of auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries, whatever we say, the negation we use, this in spoken English. I'd love to go. I'd love to go. Here, I'd. Rather than to use I would, it is simply said I'd. I'd played cricket at that time. It was very marvelous and memorable to me, even today. So here the speaker is saying, I had played cricket. So rather than say I had, what he is going to say? I'd. Rather than to say he would, he'd love to go with you. He'd, she'd, they'd. So that way people use the contracted form in spoken English. They don't use contracted form in writing. That way we can differentiate writing from spoken English. Another important thing is spelling versus pronunciations. We have pronunciation in spoken form, but we have spelling in writing form. You might have a question, sir, how can it make difference? Obviously, it can make difference, my dear. For example, simply let me ask you something, okay? There are very funny examples over here, and they are very interesting also. So, the pronunciation of you is u, obviously. For example, P-U-L-L, pull. So, U simply becomes U in pronunciation. U is the spelling in writing. Okay? U is the pronunciation in speaking. So, in writing we have spelling, in pronunciation we have sound. In writing we have spelling, in speaking we have pronunciation. So, let me give you one example how they make difference. So, U spelling becomes U in speaking. That's the, let's say, general understanding about of English language whenever we learn English. For example, P-U-L-L, pull, B-U-L-L, bull. That way, we make it. But here are some examples where that U spelling does not become U. Let me give you example, interesting example. BUS, the vehicle where we travel, by which we travel. BUS is not bush, it's a bus. And another interesting example is BUSY. It's not buzai, it's a BG. So the same U becomes U in bull, same U becomes A in bus, and same U become E in BG. So that's the difference. Spelling difference, spelling in writing, but pronunciation, the sound. So in spoken, the sound. So right spelling versus pronunciation. So they are different. They are different in speaking and writing. So that's the thing. And another important thing is, let me give you another very beautiful example also. So whenever we make the verb past form, so at that time we have, we put ed. But the same ed is pronounced as the, ta, or it. So whenever it is with the voiceless sound, this is a little bit more technical. I will give you some examples only. Okay, cooked, COOKED, cooked. It's not cooked, cooked. But maybe another played, PLAYED. So COKED, cooked, ta is there, ed becomes ta, and PLAYED, played, ed becomes da. And if in case of another verb, let me check. Okay, and in case of want, WANT, so it becomes wanted. So tit, de, or ta. So these all are the varieties and differentiates in spelling and in pronunciation. Same, spelling is same. Ed, whenever you make the past form of the verb, for example, COOK, cook, cooked, cooked, and PLAYE, PLAYED, played, and another is wanted, not wanted, want, no, cooked, ta, played, da, wanted, it, did, or it. So that way, we have the differentiation in spelling and pronunciation. That is very important. That is also another variety of spoken versus writing English. And this way, what we are trying to do is writing a representation of speech. So whenever we present the writing written script in English, and a spelling can have different pronunciation, or let's say can have different sound. A sound can have different spelling. So you may not have this idea. This is a little bit technical and goes for the linguistics more. So, but whatever you need to know is, I'll give some examples so that you can understand what I'm trying to say over here is, rather than going to the theoretical part of a transcription of the spoken form into written. So let me tell you, the C alphabet can become cha, can become ka, can become sha. Look at the example. So first of all, cha, CHAT, chat. So C becomes cha, cha sound. And the next example is CAT, cat. So C becomes ka. And next example is RIC, rice. So C becomes sa. So the same alphabet C can be ka, can be cha, can be sha. Similarly, the same spelling U can be U. Last time we also get the example of PUT, put, but but, but, not but. So put, put, but, 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 put, but, bull, pull, busy. And the next one is, bus, but, bus, put, pull, busy. And sometimes u becomes a. Culture, cu, not cool, but cul. Tu, not tu, cha. Culture. So this way, spelling sounds, they have the different types of relationship in between. So those all things comes under the variety. You cannot say this is the correct way of pronouncing somebody's name is J-O-H-N, John. So O becomes O, obviously. And A for A for A, I for E, U for U. So that way we learn in the beginning. Whenever we are learning English language as the second language user, this is not going to work because these are the varieties. And these are very natural thing in English language. So a sound may not correspond a particular letter. Similarly, a particular letter or alphabet or spelling may not correspond the only one sound over there. These are very interesting things, and they come under the written representation of speech. And another important thing is punctuation and chunking. This is very important. My name is one chunk, Tim, another chunk. I live in the fall. I love to speak English. I'm a teacher. I teach at university. So that way, whenever I speak, I am putting a particular group of words into one chunk. Chunk means a part, a group of words. And they are maintained by the pause, by how fluent I am speaking, where do I put the gap in between of the words. So that is under the chunk. But in writing form, we have the punctuation. For example, comma. It gives a little bit, pause whenever you are speaking. So you are going to bazaar, market. So why don't you buy sugar, milk, coffee, fruits, and rice. So I am speaking by putting the pause in between the words, where I often put the comma whenever I am writing. So that way we need to maintain those things. So that is punctuation versus chunking. Okay. In writing we use punctuation. In speaking we use chunk to refer to the punctuation mark. And another important thing is intonation and stress, which are the typical features of spoken English. Stress is it's a little bit technical. To make you understand about speaking is stress is the typical feature of spoken English. So to understand stress, I need to spend a few minutes over here, 3 to 4 minutes. Let's start from the beginning. Okay. Stress refers to the putting extra energy to a particular part of the words or a word whenever we communicate English in English. There are mainly two types of languages. One is syllabic type of language, another is stress type of language. So in syllabic type of language, each syllable of the words are going to pronounce in a same energy by putting the similar type of energy or same energy whenever we are communicating. Hindi, Nepali, Urdu, Bengali, those languages are syllabic type of languages. Stress type of languages are those languages where we put extra energy to the particular words or stress. Let me give you one example. Okay, this is very interesting examples. In Hindi, what we say, मेरा पापा डॉक्टर है और मेरी माँ नर्स है. In Nepali, what we say, मेरो बुवा डॉक्टर हुनुहुन्छ, मेरो आमा नर्स हुनुहुन्छ. But whenever we say the same sentence in English, what we say? My father is a doctor and my mother is a nurse. So here are 4 words in this sentence. So my father is a doctor and my mother is a nurse. My father is a doctor and my mother is a nurse. So this is the way of speaking English. You might have one question and you are a little bit angry to me also. Hey, what the person is doing? Why he is speaking like my father is a doctor and my mother is a nurse? This is the real way of using English. I'm not counseling to the native speakers because it comes automatically whenever they speak, but we non-native speakers need to know the stress pattern, rules of stress in English language whenever we are practicing English in spoken form. This is only the property of spoken English. Whenever we write, stress pattern doesn't play any role because it is the feature of pronunciation. One important thing. Again, let me repeat the same examples. मेरा पापा डॉक्टर है और मेरी माँ नर्स है. So all words of this sentence, मेरा पापा डॉक्टर है और मेरी माँ नर्स है. It may not be correct Hindi, whatever. So in Nepali language, what we say, मेरो बुवा डॉक्टर हुनुहुन्छ र मेरो आमा नर्स हुनुहुन्छ. So that way we use. There is no stress pattern in between or among these sentence phrase or in any particular words or syllables. But whenever we speak the same sentence in English, my father is a doctor and my mother is a nurse. So here there are 4 words. Father, doctor, mother, nurse are stressed. They are pronounced with the extra energy. They are louder, longer and higher. They are louder in voice, longer in duration, higher in pitch. My dear students. And you might have one thing in your mind that how to know which word is pronounced in stress or something like that. So it requires another entire lesson for me. So we'll discuss those things in another sessions. Okay? About the stress pattern of English language. This much right now. Okay, I'll make another video for the stress pattern of English language, rules, how we can develop our confidence to stress pattern and so on. Now let's move to the this one, the intonation. Intonation is also similar to stress. So stress is the word property, whereas intonation is the sentence property. Whenever we pronounce particular words, at that time we check where to put stress, and when we deal the whole sentence, the whole components, so at that time we check on the intonation patterns. In English, we have mainly 4 stress. For example, mainly 2. Let's say rising and falling. Fall rise is also there. So rising intonation, whenever we speak, our voice goes up, and falling intonation, it goes down. And fall rise, first it goes down and it goes up. So there are also many rules regarding where to put rising intonation, where to put falling intonation and fall rise also. Let me give some examples. So whenever we ask yes no question, at that time we use rising intonation. Are you married? Are you married? Are you married? So that is rising. Okay. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. So it is falling. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. Falling. Are you married? Are you married? So it goes up, it goes down. So sometimes whenever we are confused about the response at that time, if somebody is asking you, ordering you to do something at that time, if you are not sure about it, so at that time you may use fall rise. Can you help me? Well, I would, but I think I can't. I would love to help you, but I think I can't help you right now. So I'm in confusion. I'm not sure about it. So don't take these 3 types of sentences only. This intonation patterns also requires the whole lesson. So I will upload another video. Maybe I will try my best to make a single video cooperating both the stress and intonation features of spoken English. What we are trying to know over here is this stress pattern and intonation patterns are also the property of spoken English. These are also the varieties and features of spoken English. We need to understand, and these things do not play any role in written English. So they are different. Whenever you are using language in speaking form at that time, you need to be very careful about stress and intonation. Otherwise, people will understand in a different way. But if you are using English in written form, then you need not to be worried about stress and intonation patterns. These are the things. These are some of the varieties. Okay. And here are the detailed description about falling, rising, fall, rise. So we'll do that one in the separate lesson. Don't worry. And another important thing is, now let's move to the geographical and national varieties of English. The word geographical in itself suggests us that the variety of English on the basis of geography, variety of English on the basis of location. Obviously, when we talk about the location, the nationalities also come. So people who are living in Australia, they speak different English, obviously, because they have the different background over there. That is the reason. But you need not to know the reason why Australians speak different in comparison to American. It is not your headache. You need not to go that side. Just you need to understand there is a difference in between Australian and American English. And you can justify from the examples by taking some words or some sentences in the examples. So an Australian is going to speak different English in comparison to British, and similarly a British is going to speak different English in comparison to American. So that is called the geographical varieties. And more importantly, geographical varieties does not refer only to the national varieties. It also it can be found within a country also. In the United States, in South, there is black English. In the North, there is white English. So in England also, there are different types of Englishes on the basis of their geography and location. So this is called the dialect, the varieties. Okay. Here we mainly check. We don't go to the Australian, Canadian or African English. We mainly check for the American and British English, because these are the very prominent varieties in the use of English language. So let me read out one. Here is a very beautiful paragraph. I cannot stop without reading it. Please listen carefully. Regarding the geographical and national varieties, mainly we are taking examples from American and British English. English is spoken as a first language by almost 400 million people. In the United States of America, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and the Caribbean, and other places. This means there is a great abundance of English dialectal variation throughout the world. But when we come to the study of grammar in standard varieties of English, the differences are small. Within each English-speaking country, there are many differences of regional dialect between the English spoken in the southern state of the USA and the other part of the same country. These differences rarely affect grammatical usage in writing English or in the standardized spoken English, and so we ignore them in this book. Since the varieties of English used in the United States and in Great Britain are the most important in terms of population and use throughout the world, the only national varieties we shall distinguish in this book are American English as well as British English. We can have varieties within a state, within a very small territory of a country also. If you go to United States, there are many varieties of English. Even inside Great Britain also we have the varieties. But here what we focus is, because those varieties are not going to make any difference whenever we use English in standard form and when we use English in written form, at that time they are not going to make any difference. What we are trying to do over here is, we are trying to see the British and American English, because they are different in writing, they are different in standard form also, they are different whenever we use them either in spoken or written form. So it is important to go through British and American varieties. Let's see the differences we can notice in British and American English over here. So in case of article use, American but not British tends to use the definite article with the university and hospital. American wants to use the definite article, the, with the university and hospital, but British they don't. For example, American English, our daughter is at the university. In American English we say our daughter is at the the university. But in British English what we say, our daughter is at university. So in American at the university, but in British at university, no the. Okay, British don't use the definite article, that is the. Another American English is, I have got to go to the hospital for an operation. British says, I have got to go to hospital for an operation. So to the university, to university, to the hospital, to hospital. So American people use the before or with the universities and hospital, but British people they don't use any articles over there. So that is the use of definite articles. And another difference is got, gotten. So American use got and gotten both whenever they are using spoken form. For example, have you got or gotten the theater ticket? Have you gotten the piece of paper? American. But British say, have you got the theater ticket or have you got piece of paper? So this way they use. So in American, gotten is also possible in the place of got, but British they use just got. And simple past and present perfect. In case of use of simple past and present perfect, they are different. Let's see. This is interesting. Okay, this is interesting, and you need to focus to this area more. Importantly, there is also a tendency to use the simple past tense in American, where the present perfect is used in British. For example, with it and already. So with it or already, in American English, they can use simple past, but in British they use present perfect. Look at example. American, did you eat breakfast already? Did you eat breakfast already? But in British English, what we say, have you eaten breakfast already? Do not make mistake. Here, simple past is also used where present perfect is used with already and it in American English, but in British only present perfect. Let me remind you again, in American English you can either use present perfect or simple past, but with simple past and present perfect with already and it in American English. But in British English what you need to do is you can only use the present tense only. So that's another important use. And another important variety of English is subjunctive. What is subjunctive? Let's see. The use of subjunctive is more common in American than in British. After verbs like demand, require, insist and suggest, after adjective like important and necessary, and after noun like demand and requirement. In British, should plus infinitive is usually preferred. Okay, typical of American. The press suggested that Bart be dropped from the team. Okay, that's the American use of sentence. And British variety, the press suggested that Bart should be. So here look at with should. So British they use with should be, but in American be only. So again, let's check the sentence. Okay, the press suggested that, somebody suggested, don't worry. Okay, he suggested that Bart means somebody's name, Bart should be dropped from the team. Captain suggested that John be dropped from the team in tomorrow's final cricket match. This is American. In British, Captain suggested that Bart should be dropped. So whenever we use passive structure at that time, whenever we talk about the suggestion, so be is also sufficient for American, but for British you need to use should be. And that is very important. And another important difference, variety between this this use of different from and from or than or to. Look at in British and American, he is just different from everybody else. Different from everybody else. So in American, he is just different than. So British people say different from. This Dew is different from what? 7-Up or Sprite. Dew is different from Sprite in American English, British English. But in American, Dew is different than Sprite. Different from, different than. This pen is different from Chinese pen. This is Indian. This pen is different from Chinese pen if you are speaking British English. If you are speaking American English, this pen is different than Chinese English. Different from in British, different than in Chinese. Okay? And in British also, different to. Different to also we can use. So this way, from, than, to, also in case of use of those words, British and American are different. Now let's move to the another variety. This is the levels of usage, formal and informal English. So not only from the geographical point of view, not only from the nationality point of view, English can be categorized into different types on the basis of formal and informal. So formal English has different feature in comparison to informal English. So formal, okay, let's see some formal. Language is the type of language. Formal language is the type of language we use publicly for some serious purpose. For example, in official reports, business letter, regulation and academic writings. So formal English is used for the official purposes, for business writing, for academic writing. Informal English is used for everyday talk, day-to-day conversation, and the situation also distinguish which type of English we are going to use. If you are in the office, if you are in you are using English for the academic purpose, at that time you are using formal English. But otherwise, talking to your family members, friends, and in informal situation you can use informal English. So how can you differentiate formal with informal? Obviously they are more similar to the difference in between written and spoken. It's not the case exactly, but you can take many ideas from written and spoken. You might have one question in your mind that, sure, in spoken form of language also we should use formal. Yes, you are right. But how can you distinguish formal from informal? Formal is more suitable for the written form of language. Formal is more suitable for the official purpose. In formal use of language, we use the complete sentences. In formal use of language, we use the full form of the word. But in informal use of language, mainly we use the contracted forms, incomplete sentences, broken language, broken structure of language is also possible. Sometimes if we say broken means sometimes half sentences, sometimes complete sentences. All the differences in between written and spoken English, we can draw out some of the differences from them also in case of formal and informal use. And in informal use of language, we use more personal pronouns. For example, when we are communicating each other in informal situation, at that time we use personal pronoun. Do you know personal pronoun means? I, we, you, he, she, it, they, my, yours, theirs, our. These are the personal pronouns, and they are excessively used in informal English. So these are the things. And so in case of formality also there is the degree: very formal, formal, less formal. So degree. Let me give you the examples again. Offspring, very formal; children, less formal; kids, informal or very less formal, least formal. Similarly, would you please open the window, very formal; please open the window, neutral or less formal; open the window, maybe informal. So politeness also matters in case of formality and formality of language. More importantly, let me tell you one thing: written or spoken form of language gives you the idea to what extent you are going to be formal. Number 1 point. Number 2 point is, obviously there are levels of formality. Which level you want to go, on the basis of sentence structure, on the basis of phrases also. So in informal language, in informal use of language, what you are going to do is you are going to use colloquialism, slangs, have completed structures, everyday use of language, excessive use of personal pronouns. So those things are very common in informal English. And there are the degree of formality also, as I have mentioned that those things. And here are some words. Words in itself also suggest us whether we are using it formal or informal. So in formal English, what we say, it, and for less formal, help. So more formal, commence; less formal, begin; more formal, conceal; less formal, hide; more formal, continue; less formal, keep on; more formal, conclude; less formal, end. So there are words, and we can take them as the synonyms also. So some of the words, phrases and structure are used for the formal variety of English, and others are used for the informal. That is very important if you really want to develop your communicative ability. Otherwise, if you mismatch those things, and if you don't have the idea about the different levels of the formality, which level, either it is formal or informal, you may make the great mistake. So you cannot say that would you please open the window is the correct form of English. It is correct in one situation where you need to use the formal English. But in informal English, when you are communicating with your juniors and friend, at that time, if you say, would you please open the window, it may be a kind of satire or ironic to your friends, or you are not living with a very good relationship with your friends, or someone with whom you are speaking. So that way, all the structure may be correct, and they are obviously correct in the context. Without context, you cannot say which one you are going to use. So here are another group of words also that we did for the verb also. Delete. So delete is formal, cut off is informal. Meaning is same. Encounter is formal, come across is informal. Enter means formal, go in is informal. Investigate is formal, look into is informal. Surrender is formal, give in is informal. Renovate is formal, do up is informal. So this way also we can categorize formal and informal English. And here is one beautiful expression. I cannot stop without reading this. So here let's see the announcement from the library. formal and informal. Message is the same. How people make their use of language, formal and informal. The first one is formal. Announcement from the library. It has been noted with concern that the stock of books in the library has been declining alarmingly. Students are asked to remind themselves of the rules for borrowing and return of books, and to bear in mind the needs of other users. Penalties for overdue books will be in future be strictly enforced. This is the formal use of English in the announcements. Now let's compare the same announcement in informal use, how it becomes different. Okay, bring those books back. Books in the library have been disappearing. Please make sure you know the rules for borrowing, and don't forget that the library is for everyone's convenience. From now on, we are going to enforce the rules strictly. You have been warned. So the first paragraph is the formal English is prepared in formal English, and this paragraph is prepared in informal English. You can check those things in page number 33 and 34 of the book. So how we can make our English formal? Maybe I can say informal English passive voice is more preferred, but this is not the only one trick. If you write everything in passive voice, it becomes formal. No. What we can say that if you use passive voice, is more preferred in formal English rather than active voice. Okay, and there is another variety. There is another variety. English is either polite or familiar. You can be. So polite and familiar is another variety. You can say that shut the door. Or you can say, would you please shut the door? Or you can say, I wonder if you mind shutting the door. Shut the door. Would you please shut the door? I wonder if you mind shutting the door. Similarly, bring the dew. Would you bring the dew? You can say, bring the dew, will you? Would you bring the dew? Or you can say, I wonder if you mind bringing the dew. First is less formal. First is less polite. We can say familiar. And second one is more polite. And third one is most polite. You need to compare this way. So, more the degree of politeness goes up, it becomes less familiar. More the degree of familiarity goes up, it becomes less polite. They are, you cannot say that polite or rude. You simply say either you are polite or you are familiar. If we are the best friend and we live together, so I don't say that, would you please open the window? I'm not going to say that one. Or I'm not going to say, would you mind opening the window? I simply say, hello man, hello dude. Open the window. Would you please move on? Slide the window, something like that. That way I speak. So this is politeness matters in the relationship with your audience whenever you are speaking. In writing, we use more polite language. In speaking, we use more familiar language. But it is not the case always. Politeness is for the more unfamiliar situation, and familiar use of language is obviously with the friends and relatives. So if we are communicating with someone who is not familiar with us, we don't have very familiar relationship with him, at that time we use polite language. Otherwise, we use familiar language. And another important thing is, tactful and tentative language. So you need to know the terminology. What is tactful? Tactful use of language means, what we do is, let's see over here, okay? Politeness and indirectness are linked with tact. To be tactful is to avoid causing offense or distress to another person. Sometimes tact means, disguising or covering of the truth. A request, suggestion or piece of advice can be more tactful by making it more tentative. Tactful means sometimes we can't speak the truth directly. If we modify it, if we color, if we put little bit sugar over there. So one of my foreign friends used to say that, Tim, don't put sugar in between. Tell the reality, tell the truth. That is okay, but sometimes we need to be tactful also. And there might be many reasons behind it. Now, here, I am not encouraging my students and learners to be tactful whenever you use English. What I am encouraging you is to know what type of expression is tactful and what type of expression is not tactful, and what is tentative. After knowing that, you need to know in which context and situation you need to be tactful. For example, look at here is an example, a very beautiful example. So I am trying to get the example from the book also. You would better put off the meeting until tomorrow. So it is informal and familiar. You better need to put off the meeting until tomorrow. Stop meeting right now and we'll resume it tomorrow, something like that. This is informal and familiar. This is not tactful. Okay? Look, why don't you postpone the meeting until tomorrow? Why don't you postpone the? So in the first sentence, put off the meeting right now and resume it tomorrow. That is informal, no tactful, no tact. Tactful is there. The second, why don't you postpone the meeting until tomorrow? Here it is neutral, it is tactful to some extent. And another is, don't you think it might be good idea to postpone the meeting until tomorrow? Don't you think it might be a good idea to postpone the meeting until tomorrow? This is more tactful. Look at the sentence. Number one, put off the meeting right now and start it, resume it tomorrow. Or you can say, you would better put off the meeting and resume it tomorrow, until tomorrow. Put off the meeting until tomorrow. You would put off the meeting until tomorrow. Informal and familiar language. And why don't you postpone the meeting until tomorrow? Little bit tactful. Don't you think it is a good idea to postpone the meeting until tomorrow? That is the high level of tactful. Don't you think? Isn't it better that way? It means, you are not directly, communicating. You are not using the direct language. You become little bit indirect. And you become tactful. Okay? So tactful. Because you don't want to say the truth directly. It may offend somebody, and sometimes, people do not want to say the thing directly. So at that time they use the tactfulness. And let's see, in other cases, tentativeness is simply an indication of a speaker reluctant to commit themselves on a given question. For example, might just is a more tentative way of expressing possibility than may. So someone might just have made mistake. More tentative, someone may have made a mistake. So tentative means, we don't know exactly. So we often say that it's about 500. It means I am tentatively talking. So sometimes people often communicate in other language tentatively. What is the tentative price? What is the tentative duration? What is the tentative, distance? We often talk that way. Tentative means we do not know, we do not want to say the real one. So we twist it little bit. More tentative, more tactful. More tactful, more tentative. Because in tactful also, we don't hit the center, bullseye. we are covering it and we are trying to see it from this corner or side. That's the tactful and tentative use of language. Last but not the least, there is the last variety. Hello guys, it might be a little bit longer video, but I know this is very important for you. Thank you. You have given your patience to watch till now. I hope you have learned some very important aspects in relation to how do we develop our communicative competence by learning communicative grammar. So this grammar encourages you to know the different forms. Traditional grammar used to say this is correct, this is incorrect, this is correct, this is incorrect. But this grammar gives you the option. If you want to say something, if your purpose is to something, communicative purpose, so there might be 4 options. If you want to go to Washington DC, these are the ways. You can fly from India, China, Japan, Qatar, Dubai. So these are the ways to go to the United States or Washington DC. So why don't you check all those options? And these options may become suitable in a particular context and situation. That's the thing. So this book, this text, and this video really encourages you to learn some options to use English language, and you check those options which would be more suitable to the particular context or situation. That's we are trying to do. Last but not least, as I have already mentioned, and you have given me your 1 hour and 46 minutes, I guess it will be a little bit nearby of 2 hours. Okay, and we'll finish it. So literary, elevated, and rhetorical language. Language can be normal, direct, or literary. Literary language is modified version, the poetic language, the artist, the literary writer, literary figure, they use the literary language, and which is very different from the everyday use of language. As we know, the poet has the poetic license. They can make it different. Simply, let me give you one example. So in English, the sentence structure is SVO pattern, subject, verb, object pattern in a statement. But the literary persons, the poet, violate it. He or she can use object, verb, subject, object, verb, object, subjects. You can check in different songs, poems, and maybe in novels, stories, whenever they are making a kind of conversation and debate with the characters. So that is called the poetic license. The literary figure, they have their different grammars, which is very different than the everyday use of English. And it doesn't only happen in English language, it is equally happens in Japanese, Russian, Chinese, or Indian, or Nepali. So let me give you one example from Nepali language. Subject, verb, object. Sorry, in Nepali or in Hindi, what we have subject, then object, then verb. But it does not happen. So there is one song. Urera juna chunchu bante. Look at what is subject in this sentence. Obviously, this is the example of poetic language. So they violated the structures of language. So normal use of English is different with the poetic or literary use of English. In the same way, elevated means we use like how the artist completes his or her creation, like handicraft, music. At that time they make it more elevated form, decorated. So we use decoration over there, and we make it more molding or twisting from the everyday language. So that is different one. And that way we we have the variety of literary language and everyday language, rhetorical language and everyday language, elevated form and normal form. So in poem, in songs, in literature, we use different language than the everyday language. So this way we can make the varieties of English language. So this way, okay, we have completed, part 1 of this grammar. I hope you have learned something from here. And before completing this video, before saying see you to you, let's see what did we learn over here. How many points did we check? Let me revise. Okay, there are altogether in this part 1 we have altogether from 1 to 56 points, bullets. These are very important things. We mainly discuss little bit about the introduction of of this course. Let's say what is communicative grammar, how it is different with the everyday with the traditional grammar or the grammar we used to discuss and deal in the past. One more important thing is introduction to communicative grammar, and next very important things is how to use this book, how to learn communicative grammar, how it is important for our communicative use, and how grammar can actually help you to speak fluently in English language. So that way also we have discussed in this lesson, in this video. And more importantly, another important things what we checked over here in detail is the varieties of English. So varieties of English has the very good connection, very good combination with the communicative English grammar, because communicative English grammar does not encourage anybody, either teacher, students or users, practitioners, whoever, does not encourage to categorize the expression, to categorize the sentences and structure. This is correct, this is incorrect. Now, it simply encourages you to make, these are the possible, obviously there might be some incorrect expression also. If you say, I played cricket next week, does it work? Played next week? Obviously no. So what communicative English grammar is, it does not encourage you to use the English whatever you like. No, it gives you the idea, okay, if you are trying to speak this way, these are the possible sentences, these are the possible expressions, and these are the very important things, and these are the options, and these options may be suitable in a particular situation or context. Again, let me go to the same examples. Would you please open the window? Would you open the window? Could you please open the window? Can you open the window? Would you mind opening the window? Will you open the window? Do you open the window? Please open the window. Open the window, please. Window, open the window, or pointing towards the window. So there are 11 to 15 correct expression, correct sentences for the the speaking. But you need to know these are all are possible. Don't worry, and they are equally possible, and they are used in United States and Great Britain, wherever, and they are the correct form of English language. But they are 11 in number, and you cannot use them interchangeably. You cannot use wherever you like the structures. There are contexts, there are situations with whom you are speaking. On the basis of that, you can use that language. So we learn all those things, and there is American variety, there is British variety, and there is formal English, there is informal English, there is polite English, there is familiar English, there is tactful English, there is tentative English, there is rhetorical English, there is literal English, literary English, there is elevated English. So this way we have the many varieties of English language. So those things we learn in the part 1 of communicative grammar. And as a student of English, or as a student of any subjects, and you are learning English language, you have already completed your course in school educations, and mainly if you are the students of university level, if you have started your university education, or more importantly, if you are the students of bachelor first semester or first year, this course this communicative grammar would be the perfect one for you, because you have learned the basic and fundamental things of English structures and English grammar. So here this course gives you way. What are the possible options and which option is best suitable to the which context and situation? Well, in this way, thank you very much. You have given me time, your 2 hours important time. I hope this video is suggesting you, giving you some hints about how you can use English for communicative purpose and how can you enhance your communicative skills of communication, and whether the grammar promotes your fluency, whether the grammar helps you to speak in a very natural and correct way, and more importantly the appropriate way. So that way, for those issues and those topics we discussed today. And please do not feel any hesitation to write any comments, whatever you think about my presentation. It's not always good idea to say nice video, very useful video, important video. It doesn't mean that whenever you write those things, I'm not feeling happy. Obviously, I'm working hard. So if you say nice and good work and nice video, useful, obviously I'll be happy. Why don't you give me some feedback also, comments also from critical point of view? If you really want to know, if you really want the little bit different presentation than this, and if whatever you think, feel very comfortable for the constructive suggestions, constructive feedback, so that we all in online community can cooperate and help each other. More importantly, please write down some questions also in the comment box so that I can respond to you over there. And on the basis of your comments, feedback and questions, it gives me clue. What should I do in the next video? Which area should I deal in the next video? Because all these videos are for you, and you people should be very active and interactive to promote your English language, to promote your skills and knowledge in grammar, to promote your knowledge and skills in 4 skills of language, that they are listening, speaking, reading and writing. Similarly, the 2 aspects, vocabularies and grammars. So that way, don't feel any hesitation to write the comments and questions. And please, if you are new to our channel and if you love to engage your time with such sort of videos, and if you want to take part in learning English from here, if you think this is important for you, why don't you subscribe us? Please subscribe us and press the bell icon so that you can get the notification of the upcoming videos, and we can make it ourselves. Thank you very much and have a very good time. Thank you.